For the model year 2025, Porsche has brought the iconic 911 into the electric age with the release of the 992.2 GTS Hybrid. Finally, the 911 drinks electric juice similar to the Ferrari 296 and SF90, the McLaren Artura, and the Chevy Corvette C8 E-Ray. In this video, we're going to compare the 992.2 GTS Hybrid against the Corvette Chevy E-Ray, and I'm going to tell you why I think in this comparison the Chevy E-Ray may have a slight advantage over the Porsche. Guys, my name is Don. You're watching The Better Car Guy. Just click like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you disagree with anything I've said, you can leave me a comment down below and I will respond to it, and let's just jump right into this video. So as I've said, in this video we're going to be comparing the new Porsche 911 992.2, the facelift GTS Hybrid, against the Chevy Corvette E-Ray with a number of different criteria. So the criteria I'm going to be using is value, and that's going to be looking at which one is cheaper to buy up front, long-term depreciation, service and maintenance, and all that stuff. So that's going to be one of the first criteria we're going to use. The second is going to be exclusivity. The third, we're going to look at the 0 to 60 times because people care about that thing. We're also going to be looking at quarter mile times with these two cars. Then we're going to be looking at technology integration, which of those two cars tend to be a bit more technologically advanced. We're going to be looking at reliability, practicality, fuel economy, and styling. But before we do that, I'm going to have a matrix on screen. We're going to fill that out. We're going to use one for the car that got the advantage in each one of those criteria, and then we're going to just add up the sum of all those numbers, and then I'll show you why I think the Corvette E-Ray is the winner. So before I start filling out my criteria, I want to make one thing clear. None of these two cars are slouches. They're both very impressive sport cars. They have a long lineage that is well respected both in motorsports as well as in the consumer market. So I want to make sure that very clearly I am not trying to diminish the credibility of either one of these cars. I would gladly own either one of these, but it is fair as consumer products to try to compare one against the other so that you're getting the best value for money when you buy one of these cars. So we're going to jump right in with my list of criteria after we compare some of the stats on these cars. So starting with the Chevy E-Ray, the starting price is $107,000, and if you add a 20% fudge to the price, it comes up to about $128.4K. So let's say you get some options, you have to pay some dealer fees, etc. Expect to walk out of the door with around $130K for a Chevy E-Ray. If you look at the 992.2 GTS Hybrid, that starts at around $166K. If you add that 20% fudge factor to it, you end up with about $199K walking out the door with some minimal options. Now remember, Porsche options can be pretty expensive. I think I saw somewhere that on average people spend about 30% of the purchase price of a Porsche putting options on their car. So for around $200,000 you are walking out the door with a comfortably equipped 992.2 GTS Hybrid. So $130,000 for the Chevy Corvette E-Ray versus $200,000 for the 992.2 GTS Hybrid. How they make their power is equally impressive. So the E-Ray has a motor up front, an electric motor up front, powering the front wheels, and that motor puts out 160 horsepower. Then coming down the transmission tunnel in the middle of the car, there is a battery that is used by the hybrid system to store the power. And in the back, it's using the LT2 V8 from the C8 Stingray, the base model, to drive the rear wheel. So combined, this car makes around 655 horsepower with an all-wheel drive application and around 470 pound-feet of torque. When you look at the engine and the way the hybrid is integrated in the Porsche, it's a little more complex because we increased the displacement of the engine from 3-liter to 3.6. There's an electric turbocharger now replacing the twin turbo application in the 992.1, and then there is a battery, a small battery added in the frunk of the 992.2, and there is now a new motor that's bolted to a brand new PDK transmission. And what the end result of all of this complexity is you have a motor that's putting out 532 horsepower and 449 pound-feet of torque. Impressive, but look at what the Chevy did by adding the motors to the front wheel, and you can see that the Chevy has a slight advantage over the Porsche when it comes to making power. Now, another advantage to what Chevy did is with the E-Ray, the car can drive on silent EV power for 5 miles. Not a lot of mileage, you know. This is not going to be a Chevy Prius, so to speak, but it allows you to silently drive away from maybe your home or a situation where you don't want to cause a disturbance. You can just ease on out of your driveway, and then you can turn the car on, and you can use the LT2 V8 in the back plus the motor up front to propel the car. With the Porsche, you do not get any EV only range, because that's not the way the hybrid system works in the Porsche. It just fills in the torque, adds additional power so that you can have a much smoother delivery mechanism for power in the car. So the Chevy gives you about 5 miles of EV range, the Porsche 0 miles. When you look at how the cars put down the power, it's also very impressive. The 0 to 60 with the Chevy E-Ray is 2.5 seconds. 0 to 60 with the 992.2 GTS Hybrid is 2.9 seconds. So the E-Ray is able to put the power down a lot more effectively. But of course, the engine makes about 120 more horsepower than the GTS Hybrid for about $60,000 to $70,000 less out the door. So very impressive, Chevy. Quarter mile time for the E-Ray is 10.5 seconds. The quarter mile time for the 992.2 GTS Hybrid is 11 seconds. So close, but still, Chevy's got a little edge there. The top speed on the E-Ray is 183 miles per hour. The top speed on the 992.2 GTS Hybrid is 194 miles per hour. And the way they do that is Chevy has the LT2 V8, as I mentioned before, and it does have the wide body kit for the Z06, and it also has some exclusive E-Ray specific body parts such as painted body trims, etc. The 992.2 controversially has some aerodynamic bits on the front bumper that opens and closes. I don't like it. I think it makes the car look very ugly. If you want to see my comments about it, I have a video in the upper right hand corner here. Go check that out after you're done watching this one. You can see me rant and rave about the styling changes that Porsche made to make the 992.2 GTS possible. But overall, I think I like how Chevy implemented the differences and the changes for the E-Ray versus the base Stingray C8. When you look at the storage in the cars, the E-Ray is a 2-seater. You do get a front and rear storage compartment. In the 992.2 GTS Hybrid, it is a 2-seater. You can get the rear seats optionally added. In the past, all 911 models came with front and rear seats with the exceptions of the GT model. Now the back seat is an option, so you will have to check a box when you're ordering the car to have the back seats added back in. But you only get a front storage compartment on the 992.2 GTS, which has always been a thing with the Porsches because the engine is hanging out back. So the E-Ray has front and rear storage, no back seats. The 992.2 has the space for a back seat, or you can use that parcel shelf back there, plus a front storage compartment. The hybrid in both cars, you do not have to plug them in. They're not plug-in EVs. They are self-replenishing units, so as you drive, the car recoups energy and feeds it back into the battery in the hybrid system. I want to look at the way the car's braking and tire setup is done. So with the E-Ray, you get standard carbon ceramic brakes. With the 992.2, the standard is vented and cross-drilled steel brakes. So it seems as if the E-Ray is set up more for track. With the GTS, you may have to check a box to get ceramic brakes. The E-Ray comes with all-season tires, and I think Chevy wanted to use that to tell its core audience that, hey, you can now drive your Corvette during the winter if you want to, but you can swap in summer tires. The 992.2 GTS comes from the factory on performance tires. So I think, depending on where you live, that may give the 992.2 a slight edge. Both cars have 8-speed gearbox. So the E-Ray uses an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. The 992.2 GTS has a brand new PDK. I would think it's probably an update, but Porsche is referring to it as a brand new PDK box. The Porsche does come with rear steer, so as you turn your wheel, depending on the speed, if low speed, it turns opposite to your front wheels. If it is high speed, then it turns in line with your front wheels. So it allows the car to rotate a lot easier. The Chevy Corvette E-Ray does not have rear steer. I do have fuel economy figures for the E-Ray, so it's 19 city, 24 highway, 19 combined. I could not find fuel economy figures for the 992.2 GTS anywhere on Porsche's website. I don't know if maybe I couldn't find it, or maybe they just didn't publish it, but I am thinking that the way Porsche has set up their GTS Hybrid powertrain, I don't think you're going to be seeing any fuel economy improvement. If anything, you may see a hit to fuel economy. So with those figures out of the way, let's just jump in and fill out my rating chart and show you who the winner is, in my opinion, for this matchup between the Chevy Corvette E-Ray versus the Porsche 911 992.2 GTS Hybrid. Okay, so I'm going to be referring to my notes that I made on my phone when I started this comparison. So, value. This is looking at which one is cheaper to purchase upfront, walking out the door, the long-term depreciation hit, service and maintenance. Now, one thing I would say about depreciation on Porsches, generally, anything above the base Carrera and a Porsche lineup tend to hold their price. So if you're looking at anything above the Carrera model, so you're looking at the GTS, the Turbo S, the GT models, those cars tend to hold or appreciate over time. I can't say the same for the Chevy Corvette. They do tend to depreciate, but not at a very atrocious rate. But overall, I think Porsche has a leg up when it comes to depreciation, but you can't ignore the fact that you can walk out the door with a comfortably equipped Chevy E-Ray for up to 30% cheaper than it is buying a comparably configured Porsche 992 GTS Hybrid. Porsches are expensive. Corvettes are expensive too, but Porsches are expensive. Okay, so I'm gonna give the E-Ray 1 point when it comes to value. I'll give the 992.2 0 when it comes to the value. When it comes to exclusivity, I will give the 992.2 1 point, the E-Ray 0 points. When it comes to 0 to 60, I will give the E-Ray 1 point. When it comes to quarter mile times, I will give the E-Ray 1 point. And again, let me look at those numbers. So the 0 to 60 for the E-Ray is 2.5 seconds, which is why I gave it 1 point. The 0 to 60 for the 992.2 is 2.9 seconds. The quarter mile time for the E-Ray is 10.5 seconds versus 11 seconds for the 992.2 GTS Hybrid. So again, I gave the E-Ray 1 point both for 0 to 60, 1 point for the quarter mile time. Now, when it comes to technology integration and the way the car looks, the look and feel and everything, I gave that 1 point to the 992.2. I think Porsche does a really good job of integrating and maintaining over the long term the technological interfaces of its Porsche communication module in its cars. Chevy, I don't know, tends to be a lot more crude, not well done, as the Porsche models are. So I'll give Porsche, the 992.2, 1 point for integration, technology integration over the Chevy E-Ray. When it comes to reliability of the hybrid system and the car as a whole, I will give that 1 point to the E-Ray. I am not sure about this new motor being bolted directly to the PDK gearbox. Guys, when a PDK gearbox goes out, today, if a PDK gearbox dies, I've seen quotes of upward of 20 to 30,000 to replace the PDK gearbox. I am afraid of buying a GTS outside of a warranty with a PDK and an electric motor and an electric turbocharger on it. That is way too complex. I kind of like the simplicity of Chevy's approach by putting the drive motors for the EV component on the front wheels. And I think that can be bypassed maybe in the future, but the way Porsche has it done is a lot more difficult to bypass and maintain. So for reliability, I give the E-Ray 1 point, and I give the 992.2 0. For practicality, I looked at everything from the ability to use the storage in the car plus some other components, and I give the E-Ray 1 point for that. Porsche, you suffer a point for taking away the back seat and having people check a box to put it back in. But the Chevy, you come with a front kind of rear trunk but no back seat, so it was kind of a toss-up, but I'll give the E-Ray this one. When it comes to fuel economy, I can find data about fuel economy for the E-Ray on the internet. I can't find anything about fuel economy for the 992.2, so I give the E-Ray that 1 point. And then when it comes to styling, this is subjective, but I think the 992.2 with the this is where I kind of hesitate. I don't like those fins that open on the front bumper, but overall I like the styling of the car. It's very simple. I love what Porsche has done to the rear treatment of the car. I like what they've done to the front by integrating the blinker and the turn signals and everything into the headlights, so the car just looks a lot sleeker, a lot more mature than it does the Chevy. I think Chevy still has to do some work to kind of make the back and the front of the E-Ray look a little more cohesive. I think you giving the E-Ray the Z06 body kit kind of helps, but still Porsche has done a much better job at tying a more cohesive car together than Chevy has with the E-Ray. So out of my 9 criteria, the 992.2 GTS Hybrid is an outright winner in 3 of those. So the 992.2 is better with the technology integration, with the styling, and with exclusivity. All of the other points I shifted over into the E-Ray column. So 6 to 3. And you guys can agree or disagree with me down below. Let me know what you think I did wrong. So again, value, E-Ray, exclusivity, 992.2, 0 to 60, the E-Ray, quarter mile time, the E-Ray, technology integration, the 992.2, reliability goes to the E-Ray, practicality goes to the E-Ray, fuel economy goes to the E-Ray, and styling goes to the 992.2. So guys, let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave some comments down below, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.